The Gulf of St. Lawrence is one of the most fragile and precious ecosystems on this earth, according to scientists. An inland sea that borders on Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Quebec, and Newfoundland. It has counterclockwise currents that only flush into the Atlantic once a year. It is windy with ice cover. It sustains multi-billion-dollar fishery and tourism industries and has among the largest lobster production in the world. Lobster is Canada's most valuable seafood export. On a Friday in mid-September 1999, when the Supreme Court of Canada's Marshall decision was announced, our coalition was at a meeting in Antigonish about 2 oil leases that had been issued by the Canada-Nova Scotia Offshore Petroleum Board in spawning waters on the shores of stunning Cape Breton Island. I remember that day well because the media interrupted our meeting to speak to Carrie Prosper, who at that time was chief of Bucktangik, about the Mi'kmaq right to fish in these waters. I remember us discussing the irony of the Marshall decision being announced after Nova Scotia's Petroleum Board had already leased out Gulf marine breeding regions to oil companies. Back then, Bucktangik and the Mi'kmaq were instrumental in stopping those oil leases. We would never have been able to protect the Gulf of St. Lawrence from offshore oil and gas development for the past 17 years without the leadership and treaty protections of the Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Maliseet. The Old Harry lease issued by Newfoundland's Petroleum Board in 2010, the one we're fighting right now, is in the Laurentian Channel, which is the main artery in and out of the Gulf, where the highest concentration of krill in the North Atlantic live and play a vital role in the food chain for over 2,000 species that spawn, nurse, and migrate year-round through the Gulf. Atlantic salmon, endangered blue whale, right whale, leatherback turtle, to name a few. Federal and provincial governments have created such an offshore regulatory mess in the Gulf of St. Lawrence that we have 5 provinces trying to cut up a single body of water. The problem is water moves and oil and fish don't recognize provincial boundaries. These unelected industry-controlled boards are in a conflict of interest, functioning as both promoters of petroleum development and protectors of marine habitat, who allow petroleum companies to monitor their own safety and environmental requirements. This same regulatory structure was discontinued in the United States after BP's Gulf of Mexico Deepwater Horizon disaster. Marine protection is so weak in Canada right now that in October 2010, Newfoundland's Petroleum Board allowed seismic blasting to proceed in the Laurentian Channel after being warned against doing so by whale experts because endangered blue whale and cod were migrating through at the same time. How did Canada's protection of marine habitat get placed in the hands of the petroleum industry? Oil and gas companies say they will mitigate risk, but mitigation is only possible if enough science exists on species to determine how to mitigate. According to DFO's Gulf scientists, information is lacking on early life stages of lobsters, such as larval distribution and settlement. There are knowledge gaps. With few exceptions, they say, knowledge of early life stages of marine organisms is poor, and little is known about the habitat requirements of all life stages. You cannot mitigate the unknown. So why take the risk when the oil industry already has unfettered access to 88% of East Coast waters without taking over our Gulf? Fighting a preventive battle can be difficult because the public and media sometimes don't wake up until after it's too late. Big corporations and governments divide and conquer, triggering conflict between fishermen, First Nations, oil workers, and environmentalists. Well, the days of divide and conquer are over. On behalf of Save Our Seas and Shores, I want to convey the deep gratitude we feel to the Mi'kmaq elders, to Buck Dengek, to Lister Gooch, to Troy Jerome and the Mi'kmaq Maweomi Assembly for your leadership, and to the iconic Ethan Hawke. Thank you all for protecting the Gulf of St. Lawrence.